Okay, we are live now. I'm going to say welcome, everybody. We are so excited that you could join us for our Foundationally Yours second webinar. This is so exciting. We have Guy here once again, and we are so excited for him to share his knowledge on building relationships. Oh. Okay, can everybody hear me? One second. Oh, this is so weird. How about now? Can you guys hear me? Okay, sorry about that, everybody. Perfect. Awesome. I'm glad that you guys can hear me. I don't know what that was, but I apologize about that. Welcome, everybody. We're so excited that you guys could join us for our second webinar, Foundationally Yours, How to Make Funders Fall in Love with Your Mission. We're so excited that we have Guy here, Guy McPherson, who has years and years and years in the nonprofit industry. And he's here to share his knowledge on how to make relationships, make long-term lasting relationships in this industry, which we know is so important for funding purposes, right? So we're so glad that you can all be here and join us today. Now, I do want to make a couple things just before we get started. We are recording. You will be sent a replay of this, as well as we're going to be sending out kind of notes, a PDF that you can reference afterwards. So if you learn by taking notes and you enjoy doing that, by all means, please do. But if you want to sit back, have a coffee, relax, and listen to Guy's wise wisdom, please feel free to do that as well. But we are recording. We will be sending them to absolutely everybody. And, we've got our questions in the question box. Please, we're here to help. And then we've also got Steph here on the chat. Her name is Steph Sisler, and she's going to be our chat moderator. So if you have any questions or anything like that, she will be the person that is going to be answering and directing any questions. So, we want to keep this open and fun. And by all means, let's jump into it. Thank you so much. And Guy, I'm going to pass it off to you now.
Yeah, well, thank you, Nikki. And thank you, Steph. And welcome, everybody, to Foundationally Yours. And that's exactly what this is about, is just helping funders, people that support your mission, to really fall in love with your mission and to make, full-bodied commitments to what it is that you're doing. It's here in the Pacific Northwest. It's been like hitting 30 degrees, so I'm wearing a summer shirt. And if it's a little too bright for some of you, I'm just bringing a little bit of cheer, put on some sunglasses. But anyway, last webinar, what we presented was about getting grant ready. It was a getting started guide. It was about bringing in as many foundations as possible into connection with your charity. And you can review that. The webinar is on our website. It's on YouTube. We're not going to review all of that because today we're going to be looking at something completely different. We're going to be talking today in this webinar about transforming some of those new friendships into long-term partnerships with multi-year unrestricted grants, better known as GOS funding or general operating support. And this is always the end game that we coach our clients to strive for and succeed at. And it is really the entire subject of this webinar. So with this in mind, we're going to pass directly to the assumption that everyone attending this webinar has at least one foundation that has supported them and or more, and that you are keen to turn that relationship and other relationships with foundations into long-term funding support. And today, that's exactly what we're going to explore. In our last webinar, we talked about a principle of commitment and consistency. And the commitment was just getting out of the fog of indecision around foundation funding. And whatever decision you make is fine. Hopefully it is to see the value of foundation funding for your charity. But after the commitment, the consistency, which is establishing and committing to the resources and the human resources and the people that are needed to take the steps and enact what you need to enact to be successful at that. Today, there's another principle for success, and it comes from, for me, a new definition of discipline that I really love. It's from Chase Hughes, and his definition of discipline is this: Discipline is the ability to prioritize the needs of your future self ahead of the needs of your present self. So just to break that down, he says, just start small. Be your own butler. Like, it's like prepping your coffee in the morning, at night rather, prepping your coffee at night so that in the morning you wake up to the smell of coffee. You smell coffee, your nose gets that before your feet hit the floor. And he says it actually produces dopamine, which is the feel-good hormone that that we all kind of get motivated by. So my point in saying that is that developing and investing in what you need to do to get long-term relationships with foundations is going to take some effort. So we have to be at the place where we know that securing general operating support for tomorrow is worth today's sacrifice. So, I mean, just imagine the dopamine rush down the road when you get that letter that says that you've been approved for $100,000 a year for the next 5 years. That's transformative. That's like $500,000. And that is conservative. 30 years ago or so, I was working with a very small human services kind of humanitarian charity working in Romania, and they got exactly that, 500,000 over 5 years. And now those directors working there didn't have to worry about, putting food on their own table. They were able to focus on the core issues and were able to do amazing things. They were able to bring doctors from North America to Romania to teach Romanian doctors. They were able to send youth to Olympic events that they would never have been able to do before. They were able to focus on the real mission of their organization. So core funding, general operating support, is transformative. And there are cases to be built. Like, if you can only imagine, what would it be like for your charity to know ahead of time that in the next 5 years you are going to be getting $100,000 or more a year, and what you would be able to do? It's unrestricted funding. You can do what you want to with it. You can offer living wages for all of your staff, and by doing that, retain staff and attract good staff. And because of that kind of core infrastructure, actually being able to deliver more and better services. So we know that core funding is far more effective than restricted funding for very specific things. So the greatest danger for us in almost all things is letting urgent things crowd out the important. So I'm hoping that we see how important GOS funding is, how transformative long-term partnerships can be for charities. And this will help us when we start to prioritize the activities and efforts we're going to be talking about today. And there will be efforts required to turn your current one-off funding grants into long-term funding support. So we're going to do a quick poll here. Hopefully you'll participate. We'd just like to get a bit of an idea, a feel for the room. So if you could answer these questions, we're not tracking it or anything, but just for the purpose of this webinar, if you could answer one of 4 questions, try and find the best one for your charity. Your charity has never received a grant from a foundation, number 1. Number 2, your charity has received grants from foundations, but you've never had repeat funding. 3, your charity has received more than one grant from a specific foundation or foundations, but only for restricted grants related to specific projects. Or number 4, you have multiple foundations, or at least a foundation, that supports your charity with unrestricted multi-year grants, which of course is the objective and goal of how to get there for all of us today. So let's get started. I'd like to call this graduation day because there are charities that have graduated to this, that they have moved from the one-off restricted program-based grants into true partnerships that will fund core operational expenses. So the question the question is why would a foundation do that? And historically, they have not, at least not to scale. But if you were with us last time, you know that certain things have changed, and seismically, really. During COVID-19, we talked about this before, unrestricted funding skyrocketed to 39%, up from 3%, meaning that foundations had only 3% of the grants that they awarded was for unrestricted funding, and went up to 39%. Now, those numbers have gone back down, but certainly not to the same miserable 3% level. And there is substantial research that has been done since then. Carleton University, Future of Good, a Canadian Journal of Nonprofits, Susan Schaefer, author, founder of Resource Partners in Washington, D.C. They all say that that rapid loosening of restrictions in 2020, although it was a reaction to an emergency, many foundations are making these changes permanent. Many foundations are continuing to adopt, and this is an important phrase for us today, trust-based approaches, which emphasize multi-year general operating support. This is fantastic news for the charitable sector. There are benefits for them. There's benefits for you. Obviously, reduced reporting, improved transparency, substantially more effective funding. The money goes much further when foundations contribute to core funding rather than restricted project funding. So we are seeing emerging trends that are very encouraging within foundations and within the leaders of foundations that show what I've already said. Number one, that there is a growing trend among foundations to lean into unrestricted funding. This is a great time to focus on that. We're going to be taking some time later on to answer some questions partway through, make this a little bit more interactive. So if anybody has questions, just keep dropping them into the chat room there, the chat box. But the second thing I want to say is that there is a new understanding that core funding is really more effective and a much better use of resources. And think about this, foundations, almost all of them have a purpose and a cause, whether that's food security, animal welfare, youth at risk, whatever it is. And their foundation is there because they are as committed to that cause, probably because they have their own story. Just like you are in the charity you're in because this charity, this sector means something to you. And therefore, if we can convince them that their money will have a bigger impact by going to core funding rather than restricted grants, it's a win-win situation. So one of the biggest obstacles we have to overcome, and we're going to talk about how to overcome them, but one of them is it's not the logic or reason behind the obvious benefits of supporting you with core funding. It is the emotional factor that comes into play. We see this a lot with individual giving, but foundations also are impacted by that, and maybe family foundations even a little bit more so. There is immediate gratification from supporting project-based funding. It's like, I don't want to diss this, so don't get me wrong, but it's like the child sponsorship programs. Some of you may have those, maybe running them very successfully. The strength of them are the kid on the fridge. And it gets people who would otherwise not donate to donate. So it's great. But there have always been inherent problems with these campaigns and solutions that charities have been effective at overcoming. But at the end of the day, we know this, that money raised through these programs, if that same amount of money was given without designation, and the money could be used at the discretion of the charity for general operating support, the money would go much further. The impact would be much greater. But the problem is people like to have the picture on the fridge. And this, as I said, also true to some degree for foundations. There is an emotional reward, that dopamine thing. There is an emotional reward when a project can point directly to an outcome. a smiling face, a before and after picture. But the good news is this number 3, this eureka moment that is happening for many foundations, that multi-year unrestricted grants are more impactful and easier to administrate, both for the foundation and charity. It is reducing, streamlining, reporting, and paperwork. They're realizing this. And number 4, finally, that before we move on to the actual steps that we're going to take, there is an awareness that there is and always has been a certain inequity that has existed between larger and smaller charities when it comes to GOS funding, general operating support. The good news here, again, is that there is, in some circles at least, a very conscious determination to correct this imbalance. So another quote: foundations and philanthropic organizations are actively taking steps to address the inequity. They are shifting to, again, trust-based and unrestricted funding. And this you can underline. They are actively targeting grassroots organizations that have been historically underfunded. Grassroots organizations are also historically the smaller and mid-sized charities. So this is fantastic news for all of us. So these changes are happening. And one of the reasons why I'm glad you're here is because charities can be a part of this cultural shift. So every time any one of you win a foundation over to supporting your charity through long-term unrestricted funding, you are helping to transform the entire cultural mix, the dynamic between foundation and charity. You're helping each other. And it's incredibly important because it makes us more effective at what it is that we do. So do we have the poll results yet? Is it a little too soon, Nikki? Do we have those yet? Do we have any idea?
No, we definitely do have the poll results. So we have 27% said that they have never received a grant from a foundation. 16% said they received grants from foundations but have never had repeat funding. And 50% of the group said they have received more than one grant from a foundation or foundations, but only for restricted grants related to specific projects. And the 5% were the last ones, where they've had multiple foundations that support your charity with unrestricted multi-year grants.
Awesome. That's so fascinating. And what we want to do, and what the nonprofit world wants to do, is flip that whole thing upside down. And that's where we're aiming. So let's talk about the 5 practical steps that you can start taking right away. So the first thing is we have to break the barriers, and we can do that through optics and strategy. So let me first say I'm never daunted by barriers. I want to know what they are so I can discover how to overcome them. But there are some barriers, especially if you're a smaller or mid-sized charity. So the trademark of a charity that typically and regularly gets GOS funding is that they're big. And they have, first of all, big money and big resources. And what this means is they are projecting scale and maturity. And that by itself alone, with no necessary basis for reality, it builds trust. Just the optics of it is that it builds trust. This organization, this large charity, has scale and maturity. They have their big business, meaning they have credibility and governance. So these are the kinds of things that larger charities project just by the fact that they're big. They have big names, recognizable names, and this speaks to leadership. And again, a sense of trust. And then finally, they have what I would call big bang, or evidence of impact. Now, the truth of it is there's no return on investment here. Your impact is big anyway, but it may very well be that your dollars are going far more effectively spent. Big charities can sometimes, not saying they do, but they can have a lot of administrative issues that really puts the cost of their programs quite high. So, but they have this going for them, and this might make us feel that the deck is stacked against us, but it's not. Grant Advance, from the beginning, actually one of the reasons we started, we've always advocated for fair distribution, and we have championed the cause of the smaller and mid-sized charities. I mean, we have a lot of big charities that work with us as well because we're good. But we have demonstrated successfully that anyone can play with the big boys, and not just for the small one-off grants, but also for the coveted GOS, the enviable, unrestricted, multi-year funding partnerships. So this comes down, I believe, to one of the first things it comes down to is optics. There's optics and then there's strategy, but optics. So the first thing that any charity needs to do is get their ducks in a row. Like when a bear attacks, you act dead. When a cougar attacks, you act big. So we have to act big and not act only. We are big. Our scale might be different, but we are big. Our impact is big. So we have to not just act it, we have to project it. And if I can just go back to that definition of discipline, prioritizing the needs of your future self ahead of the needs of your present self, it means there's going to be some effort that we're going to have to put in to demonstrate the truth of the fact that we are big. And that's what this is going to take. So how do you counter big money? You can counter big money by demonstrating good stewardship. And this is about balanced budgets. This is about a good budget for your grant proposal if they request it. But it's good stewardship and the ability to demonstrate that your charity is well run fiscally. Doesn't have to be big money. It just has to be good stewardship. And big business, you can do that by making sure that you're prepared with professional, up-to-date documentation. When you're asked for your annual report, when you're asked for your most recent IRS or CRA submissions, that these things are not something we scramble for. These things are things that are part of our business, that the business is run well. Countering big names, you don't need a recognized name. What you need is a staff with integrity. And you have very real, genuine, committed community of leaders. Your leaders, your staff, your volunteers, your board members. It wouldn't hurt to have bios on them, because most of the people that work in your charity are really committed. They have a story to tell. And we can demonstrate that the leadership of our charities they have integrity. That's all that you need. And then countering big impact. You counter big impact with your grassroots, community-based, transformative stories. That is big impact. And dollar for dollar, oftentimes a much bigger impact. So there are optics that you can work on to make sure that you're not scrambling for any of these things. And you, like I said, have your ducks in a row. The second thing is strategy. And we talked about this before, and we're just really big believers on this, especially for smaller and mid-sized charities. Approach what we said before, the right funders, which were foundations, but now we're talking about approaching the right foundations. So let's talk about large foundations with websites. Who do they support? Well, they support universities, hospitals, national charities, maybe others as well, but absolutely they do that. They are a hard nut to crack. Lots of competition. Local community foundations. Now, they may have a local focus and could be an extremely good candidate for you. But again, they usually have websites and there's usually lots of competition. But again, they could be a really good candidate. But where we settle is on family foundations without websites. Again, Who do they support? Well, yes, universities, hospitals, national charities, they support everyone. But do you not think that they might just be more open? They're a family foundation, that they might be more open to something that is a little more personal, where that's a little bit more passionate, where they can feel a little bit more connected. And we're going to talk about that almost immediately, how to make them feel connected. This is, again, they don't have to have the picture on the fridge to get that emotional rush. They can pay your electric bill and rent bill as long and still get the sense that they are accomplishing something amazing if they are connected more closely to your foundation or your charity. And family foundations, the opportunity for that is really right there. We're going to be just the 3 points now. We're going to talk about developing relationships, nurturing relationships, and discovering new relationships. Those 3 things, and everything I'm going to say about all of those actually applies to all of them, but I've kind of organized it structurally so the most relevant actions are in the corresponding sections. But again, all of the strategies we're going to talk about will apply to all 3 stages. And I would also like to mention this, that not every foundation that gives you a grant is going to become a long-term partner, nor do I think that you should necessarily be putting your energy into pursuing them. Unlike getting started, where we said build as big a base as you can, get as many as you can in, absolutely. But when it comes to building these long-term relationships, you're developing and nurturing a long-term partnership. And it's a carefully chosen strategy with a limited group of foundations that you are going to woo based on signs and signals, and you're going to be watching for those during the initial courting period. So we'll start talking about that in just a moment, but maybe we could stop. Do we have any questions that have come into the chat room there?
Yep, actually we do. We've got one from Clyde Landis. He said bios on board members, should they be openly posted on our website or just available upon responding to funding requests?
Oh, I mean, that's going to be a personal choice, but I'm all about disclosure. And if you've got bios, I always find, like, when I go to a website, think about yourself. When I go to a website, I'm looking at their testimonials, I'm looking at their video testimonials, and I'm looking at their team. And a well-written bio, and that is going to demonstrate commitment and integrity, I think that's a winning thing. But again, I think that's something that each organization is going to have to decide. But I can't see any disadvantage to making it public.
Awesome. Yep, that was the only question, so we can keep on going.
Okay. So we're going to talk about developing relationship with existing funders. Now, I've already mentioned the term signals. This is what you're looking for. Are there any signals with the foundation or foundations that have supported your program that indicates there might be a type of imprint? These are the ones that you want to nurture. So not everyone is the one you're going to want to pursue, because there's going to be more effort and it's going to be personal. So you're developing friendships, so you want a little bit of love happening here, I would think. I have a rescue dog. She's a Korean Jindo, and Jindos have one primary trait. They bond with one person. Like, her nickname is Velcro because she just sticks to me. They're also very smart. They tried to train them as police dogs, and they were amazing, but they were a total fail because they couldn't transfer their loyalty from the trainer to the police officer. Now, you're looking for an imprint. You're looking for a type, ultimately a loyalty between the foundation and your cause. Ducklings and chicks are the same way. I'm sure you know that. If you are there when they hatch, there is an irreversible bond that happens with the first moving object that they see. And so they imprint on you. And so what we're looking for are opportunities, and the sooner the better. So you want to be looking for these signs when foundations first connect with you. And you want to essentially not wait 6 months or a year to start the next steps that we're going to talk about now. You want to, especially with those foundations, you want to get yourself in front of them. You want to make the imprint. You want it to be lasting. So there are some basic touch points. And this is going to be, I'm going to start out with every funder, or not even every funder, every organization that responds to you. So the first thing is thank you letters. When they say yes, you send them a thank you. When they say no, you send them a thank you. When they say no and go away or don't apply to us again, you send them a thank you. If they have taken the time to respond to you, you respond to them. This is common courtesy. This has to be done. And when you say, well, what they say, go away, don't apply to us again. The world of foundations is a very small world. And they may have even been put off by your LOI. Hardly ever happens, but maybe they were. But nobody's going to be put off by a thank you letter where you say, hey, totally understand that this isn't a match, but we so appreciate everything that you do and you're like the way that you help to change the world. You're not asking for money. You're not trying to get the door open again. You're not sticking your foot in the door. You're just thanking them. And this, rather than have anything negative, you'll always have positive things said about you. And again, it's only common courtesy. Thank you letters always, whenever anybody, any foundation responds to you for any reason. Now, for those that do fund you, impact reports. Now, some of you may know what an impact report is. Probably you all do. But in our document generator, we help our clients with all the documents so they create professional industry standard documents, whether it's the thank you letter, whether it's the LOI, the impact report, the proposal. There are certain things in paragraphs and certain things that need to be included there. But my point is this: at the completion of your project, as a bare minimum, you need to be sending out an impact report to tell them what their money did. And then the third thing, and again, this is common courtesy, this is for every funder, media coverage. Now, I'm going to be careful here. Only with permission. You must always get their permission. Many foundations want to fly under the radar. They do not want to be publicly acknowledged, but offering to acknowledge them is just as powerful as acknowledging them. So if you have a newsletter there, if you have a website there, in your social media there, you're basically publicly thanking them for the contribution they have made. If you have those different venues and they have given you money and they are amendable to being thanked publicly, then you need to do that. Otherwise, it's a bit insulting or ungrateful. So now this is every funder we're talking about. These are basic touch points. Now with potential long-term funders, this is what you want to do. If there is a funder, you think that there's been a signal, you think there's a possibility for imprint. Imprint is about communication. You need to find ways to communicate with the organization that has nothing to do with fundraising, right? It is not a handout every time you go to them. So what are some of the things you can do? Some additional updates, for example, your annual report. If you have a newsletter, make sure it gets sent to them. If during the course of the project, there are certain benchmarks, or you get this picture or something awesome happens, there's a little story, you can send it out. It'll be included in your impact report, but a little bit, beforehand. And setbacks. People are very afraid to admit their failures, but you shouldn't be. Let's say the project was to add 100 beds to the homeless shelter. Something come up, and something always comes up, and they know that. They're business people, and they know it's 3 steps forward, 2 back. And at the end of the day, you're only going to get 50 beds. You know that already. To be transparent about your challenges only builds trust. They're going to find out anyway. But to be transparent and not feel like you're gaslighting them in any way, this builds trust. And this builds the potential for your long-term core funding with them. They respect it. Another opportunity is seasonal greetings. I mean, I know some of this sounds so basic, but even just the fact, know your recipients and the holidays they celebrate. You know, you're not going to send a Christmas greeting to somebody that celebrates Hanukkah. But regardless of what it is, celebrate the seasonal things you can, whether it's Christmas, Hanukkah, Ramadan, Independence Day, Canada Day, pick it. And another one is hopefully you know your own nonprofit appreciation days and weeks. World Cancer Day, February 4th, International Women's Day, March 8th, World Mental Health Day, October 10th. These are great times to just reach out and put your name in front of them. You're not asking for anything, you're communicating with them. And then there is the much deeper and next step, and that is invitations and participation. So all of you run board meetings and are in committees, and you know the wisdom of getting buy-in. And the best way to get buy-in is to let people have a voice. So you're doing a bake sale, and you know from history that strawberry rhubarb pie is your moneymaker. And you're going into that meeting, and you know you're going to come out of that meeting with the decision to do strawberry rhubarb pie. But there's a guy in there, maybe a new one, and he's an apple pie guy, and he is pounding the apple pie thing real hard. And he's going to be disappointed because you go with strawberry rhubarb. But you end up making the decision to use his grandmother's pie pastry recipe. He walks out a little disappointed, but pretty happy. And he's bought in. Now, just think about directors of foundations that are supporting you, that have given you signals that they're interested, and inviting them to things like brainstorming sessions. And a brainstorming session, it's like, doesn't have to be official, but it's like an advisory board. And this is a brainstorming session, not about raising money. This is about, again, let's say your food security, and it's like, you've got the stats, we're all going to get together. This is the reality of our community. These are the needs. This is what we're doing. This is what we're going to retire, and because we can't run it, or this is what we're going to add. And bringing those people in and letting them have a voice, not to make the decisions, not to lose control, but to let them have a voice. And do you think that if somebody in the foundation has a voice, that they're not going to be more likely to have a long-term commitment to your organization? And the other thing is many of these family foundations are very successful businesses. So they oftentimes have way more to offer than just money. So you may be thankful for what they have to suggest or recommend or have you think about. But whether or not they accept the invitation itself is powerful. These are the kinds of things that help you build that trust-based relationship with the foundation that can lead to these core funding decisions. And the methods are pretty basic. Phone calls. Anytime you have a phone, use it. A phone number, a contact person, personal emails, email campaigns, letters, invites. Like I said, any kind of invite that you can give them. And that brings us to the third point, which is nurturing relationships. And this is about how to maintain a positive relationship with the foundation that has already provided more than one grant or is a candidate for it. The first one is so basic, like most of these things are. Just be easy to work with people. I mean, none of us are going to be rude. None of us are going to, be offensive to a funder. But that's not what I mean. I'm talking about timely compliance. If they ask you for something, be prepared to respond. And to respond in a timely manner, if you can. And this is why, again, most organizations that are, very successful with foundation funding have the tools to do it. And one of those tools is a project management system, something that makes sure you stay on track and you do things in a timely way. So when they ask for something, they get it. It is being easy to work with is really mostly about that timely compliance and invites. So site visits, invite them to your site. If you have an event, and if it has a ticket involved, of course, they're going to get a free one. You're not going to charge them, but site visits, or even just to come and see your place, not even an event, going to their location, coffee, lunch, dinner, in this day and age, virtual meetings. And as I mentioned earlier, the big one, and it's a big commitment, but it's a great one, and that's inviting them to share their wisdom, the brainstorming sessions. So this is common courtesy versus what I would call uncommon or exceptional courtesy. And these are the things, it's relationships, whether it's with a spouse, a child, a friend. It's about staying in contact, really. Again, quite simple stuff. So now we're going to finish up by talking about discovering relationships. So most charities would not consider themselves sales organizations, but you are. You're always selling your mission. You're always selling your vision. You're always trying to bring in new members. You're always trying to bring in new funders. And if you've ever been involved in sales, and we all are, whether we're selling or whether we're buying, there is a significant difference between contacting somebody that is a referral versus a cold call. So nothing beats a personal relationship. In fact, we've had objections with organizations we've talked to. No, we don't approach foundations. We're only successful with foundations where we have a relationship. Well, I'm sorry, yes, of course. I mean, that's the low-hanging fruit. If you don't have a relationship, then, are we not always making new friends? Like, there are ways to find those relationships. So shouldn't say need, but a good idea is to explore every avenue you can to uncover relationships that might already exist. So we're gonna talk about how to do this. Just give me one moment. So we're gonna talk about how do you uncover relationships that exist but you don't know about. You've all heard about 6 degrees of separation, I'm sure, or seen the movie. And the concept behind that is that there's never more than 6 steps between you and anyone else on the face of the planet, and with that, where there's not a connection. And I would be very, very surprised if any organization that's here would not, if they looked, would not be able to uncover a hidden relationship with a director of a foundation if they took the time to explore it. So what we're going to talk about is how you can do that. How can you find relationships that exist or develop new relationships? So you're going to start by making 2 lists. The first list is going to be a list yourself, your employees, your volunteers, your philanthropists. There's obviously, people that, higher net worth individuals, a list of people in your organization who you're going to set that list aside, and then eventually you're going to provide them with another list. And that other list is a list of the names of directors of foundations. And to find them, you're going to use search engines not to just find foundations. You're going to use search engines to find directors. And you can do that in a number of ways. You can do it as a regional search. For example, you can look for foundations that are aligned with your cause, of course, but that also are within what I'll call driving distance, whatever that means to you, whether foundations that are located in your city or your county or your state or your province, whatever, set the parameters, whatever is driving distance, face to face, you're able to connect with them. And now you get not the list of the foundations, you get a list of all the directors that are serving on the boards of all of those foundations, and you export it as a list of names. You can also search not for foundations. You can ask the people in your organization or identify people in your community that are relatively high net worth individuals. Usually they serve on the boards of foundations, not always, but often. And you can put their name into a search engine. Ours is called By Director, and it will show you whether or not they serve on a board of a foundation. And you might be shocked to discover people that you had no idea they were a director on a foundation, but they are. And there are a number of other ways that we can do that. We can do it by looking at newly formed foundations, your current funders. You might have funders that you don't have any relationships with, but surprise, surprise, you print out the names, you give that list to the people in your organization, and somebody goes, "Oh, that's Bob. Bob and I, we golf every Sunday together." Now, you have these connections, and again, I'd be surprised if you would not uncover some. You have these connections that can be leveraged, not manipulated, but they can be leveraged in a way that increases the possibility of moving your relationship and the funding from that foundation into something that we would call core funding. And these people basically on your team that now know a director on a foundation, they can be sent out as your ambassadors, or they can be used to introduce you to the director of the foundation. So basically a summary of what we're talking about. And again, most of this is so common sense. The end game, and well worth pursuing, is long-term unrestricted funding. This requires a very deliberate shift from transactional grant seeking to relationship-based partnership building. And it's good to keep in mind that foundations are changing. The research indicates that foundations are adopting trust-based philanthropy. And the more that move to multi-year unrestricted funding, the less that will be available for restricted funding. So it really is important to get on the bandwagon. And then the optics and strategy. Optics, all you have to do is demonstrate professionalism, good financial stewardship, leadership integrity, and authentic community-based impact stories. Those are the optics you need to be successful. You don't need to be huge. You don't need to have big names. You don't even have to have a big budget. You just need to be professional with good stewardship, integrity, and impact at whatever scale. And strategy, target family foundations where there's alignment, where there's a potential for personal connection, where regional focus matters much more than scale, and focus your energies on a smaller group where there is partnership potential, both in terms of the signals they've sent and also just in that magic that you can tell is happening because you're inviting them into your home. You're going to be spending time with them. So relationship-driven fundraising depends partly on reading the signs. Identify the foundations that show these positive signals: engagement, curiosity, repeat funding, repeat interest, and then intentionally nurture those relationships through very simple processes, as deep as you want to go. Start out with thoughtful, thankful communication, thank you letters. timely impact reporting, regular updates and invitations, always professionalism, responsiveness, and courtesy. Over time, these practices build trust and they open the door to conversations about broader, unrestricted support. So the key takeaway, and I'm done, is achieving multi-year unrestricted funding is not about making bigger asks. It's about building trust-based relationships with intention and discipline. And charities of any size can move from one-off grants to sustainable partnerships. So I hope this information has been helpful. Obviously, there is just a mountain of information that you can research and find on the internet or in books, etc. But these are the trends, and these are some of the steps that can be taken. So we'll finish up, open the door for any more questions that there may be, or responses or ideas, your input.
Yeah, we have a question from Sharia. She says, how do we connect with new foundations, especially when there aren't many foundations within the same city? Most times we don't have connections with board members or directors as well. This makes it difficult to find foundations and hear back from them.
Yeah, I mean, that's a packed and loaded question, and I have to be careful not to be too mercenary about this. But in terms of promoting, so I'll promote this way, that I'm not sure what your situation and what tools and resources you have. Finding foundations is a challenge at the best of times. If you don't have third-party tools to do it, I'm sorry to say it, but I'm just going to. Most of them don't have websites; are almost impossible to find. But I can say I don't think there's a single charity that we have worked with, we've done a free consultation with, which we offer to anybody, no obligation of any sort. We will do the research for you. We will look and we will find foundations that are aligned with your mission, that give to your cause and give to your region. And I would say it is never hard to find a couple hundred of those in 20 or 30 minutes. They're there. But you have to have the tools and resources to find them, because they are hard to find. I totally empathize with that. They don't have websites. They don't advertise. They're underground. But they're there. Absolutely, they're there. I don't know. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, I think that was great. We also have from Buzz Hunter, who is asking if you could repeat what you said regarding operating expenses.
Well, again, quite broad, but operating expenses are like pretty much anything that goes to your core funding, whether that is your rent or your lease or your electric bill. Operating expenses, I think, could even be related to your salaries. It's anything that is not directly related to your deliverables, as I would understand it. So basically, an unrestricted grant is a grant for operating expenses is going to be left to the discretion of the charity to spend as they see fit. And that can be for basically any kind of core operational expenses. It's not tied to any single project. It doesn't have hooks on it. You don't have to report regarding where it's been spent, or not. But you're not violating any agreement by spending it on the basics of just running the operation.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. That is all the questions from the chat. I do kind of want to just tie this off by saying, if anybody does have any more questions, feel free to email us. You can email us at any of our email addresses, Nicole at Grant Advance. any of the email addresses that are associated with us, please send us an email if you do have questions, or even better, sign up for a free consultation where you can hop on, find some funders that are supporting in your region or in your state or for your mission. Our consultants are always ready to jump in and, walk you through what the grant advance system can do, but also helping you in that process as well. All of the things, kind of like what Steph did mention, everything that Guy was highlighting today by searching by directors, regions, or formed foundations, they're all tools that can be found in the grant advance system. So if you're finding that you're unable to find foundations within your area or find foundations that are funding your specific mission, tools like grant advance are where that breakthrough will happen. So, again, if you would like to book a consultation, we will drop that link into the chat, and you can feel free. Oh, Steph already did it. Thank you so much, Steph. Feel free to sign up for a consultation and find funders in your area, and let us help you. And again, if you have any questions, we're always here to answer any of your questions and help you as much as we can. As far as the PDF goes and the live recording, we will be sending that out within, as soon as we get the recording, I'll send that over. And again, in the PDF document for all of our non-members, there will be a 20% off discount coupon for our memberships. So again, if you have any questions, please feel free to hit that reply button and ask me any questions you'd like. And as for me, that will tie... Oh, hang on. Sharia says... Sharia, I am reading your comment right now, and I will get back to you right after this meeting. But thank you so much for participating, for joining us today. And we really do look forward to meeting with you further. And I am actually going to put in the chat right now the booking link if anybody would like to book a consultation with any of our fantastic consultants. And yeah, we're really looking forward to hearing from you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.